she prefers to pretend to be herself rather than other people, which is what I do.
We're going? We are sitting on the Queen Mary with Marty Feldman.
Good God, is that where we are?
That's where we are. I don't want to shock you, but you really are on the Queen Mary. And a few minutes ago, we were sitting with Dom DeLuise,
yes.
And you asked who he was with, and he said a Canadian.
No, he said Brian.
He said Brian.
And I thought Brian was the name of a town, you see, because everybody's
really?
been saying, well, the interviews have been doing with different towns. People,
I see.
I thought I was just talking to a man called Detroit, in fact. Obviously not. You know.
In what country do you think a town called Brian might be?
I have no idea.
No?
I know Toronto very well, though.
Why do you know Toronto so well? You were just up in Toronto doing some commercials, weren't you?
About a year ago.
Yes.
I first went there about 12 years ago to write a show for Tony Hancock.
For CBC?
Well, it was a package thing. It never got on the air because Hancock in the end decided he didn't want to do it. But that was my first experience of it. And I always wanted to go to Toronto, strange enough, because I was one of the very few kids in England who played ice hockey. And like Toronto Maple Leafs, that was
That's
it.
Right.
That was. And when I went there recently, I have a Toronto Maple Leaf sweater.
Did you get to Maple Leaf Gardens
yes.
for a hockey game?
No, I didn't have time. When I was there, I was in there 2 or 3 days. I got there long enough to buy a Toronto Maple Leaf shirt.
I'm sorry you're not wearing it.
Well, I didn't know you'd be. I didn't know
True.
Toronto would be here today. Hello, Toronto.
I'd like to ask you...
Except for the O'Keefe Centre, I like the rest of Toronto.
What's wrong with the O'Keefe Centre, Marty?
O'Keefe, I think.
Yes, the O'Keefe, the beer centre.
Yes, O'Keefe is what is wrong with it, I think. The unofficial mayor of Toronto, right?
Sure.
No, actually, Toronto changed. You know, when I was first there 12 years ago, it really was a very square town. It's great now. It seems to be very, much more European than it was, in the sense that it's more open.
True.
You know, it used to be Montreal, and I found Montreal is much more uptight.
I was asking Dom DeLuise, what happens to the actor and what happens to Marty Feldman and Dom DeLuise when you know that your director-screenwriter has written a role expressly for you? How much is Marty Feldman the personality, and how much is Marty Feldman acting and creating beyond himself in comedy?
Well, simply, I believe acting only to be pretending to be other people, as opposed to being interviewed where I'm now pretending to be myself, as you're pretending to be yourself. We are not actually being ourselves.
True.
You know, that would be unacceptable on television. You know, it's not a difficult thing. Anyway, I write, I direct, so I understand some of Gene's problems. Gene understands a lot of our problems too, because he's an actor, he's a writer. We understand each other's problems, I think. I found it very easy with Gene, since he, as an actor directing you, understands the actor's problems, whereas the director who was has a technical orientation, probably does not understand so well. He will manipulate you and move you to certain positions for the benefit of the cameras, whereas the cameras only exist to record what actors do, despite what Antonioni thinks, you know.
Or Fellini.
No, Fellini's very concerned with faces, people.
What about Bergman?
Bergman too, I think, yes. I don't think Dick Lester is too concerned with people.
You're talking about your experiences on the bed sitting room?
Yes, that was a very tremendous alienating experience. But I'd only been acting 3 months at the time, and probably I didn't know what Dick expected of me. Working with him now, I think it might be different. But Dick is very much a technical director. Gene is very much a human director. He directs actors. Anybody can point at cameras. I mean, all you need to know is what you want to see on the screen.
Marty, do you find yourself as a man who has the writing credentials you have, and has done the amount of writing for radio and television, that when you get a script, you read it first as a writer?
Yes, I read it as a writer, I act it as a writer, and if I get a chance to, I edit it as a writer too. Yes, if you're a writer, that's what you are all the way through. Acting is only a completion, directing, they're only extensions of the same process. First there must be something to act, then there must be something in order the director has a reason to exist.
I've just been given a cue that we're out of time. Okay. I want to thank you for speaking with us.
By the director, you see?
Yes, by the director
Those are the guys
again.
who screw us every time.
Marty Feldman. Sorry, thank you.
That's okay, it's a pleasure.